Hello and welcome to the Federal. Days after communal disturbances erupted in Sambal, we talked to Lucknow based social activist Mr. Athar Hussain to understand the impact of court cases that are being filed against several mosques. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Hussain.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
So, my first question is it is being said that the local administration did not handle the situation very well in Sambal. How do you look at this development?
Prima facie, actually, as we say that it is the duty of the state government to see that law and order is maintained. And when there was such a sensitive issue, obviously there must be some loopholes in that basic handling of that situation, like what the intelligence was doing and how the things flared up. Uh, these are to be investigated, and already the state government has appointed a commission of inquiry. I think that commission of inquiry is there to look into those issues, and they will come out with all the details how the things went out of the control. Since there's already a retired judge, a high court judge, looking into that issue of commission of inquiry. And let us keep our fingers crossed and see what the outcome of that report is. But obviously, it is like a fact now that 5 lives were lost into that, and there's a lot of political hue and cry over that issue. There are accusations and counter accusations from all the sides, and since Sambhal has been relatively, I would say, out of that communal cauldron which we usually find in Western UP areas. So it was like something very new for Sambhal. I hope and pray that a normalcy prevails there, and all the issues related to that are properly investigated by all the concerned investigative authorities, and the outcome, the truth should come out, and whosoever is responsible for the violence of that day should be punished and strongly punished.
So, like Sambal, now cases have been filed on Ajmer Dargah, a mosque in Jaunpur, and Varanasi. What is your opinion on these cases being filed or registered in lower courts?
Uh, for that, I would say that liberty, equality, and fraternity. These are the basic. I would say they constitute the basic structure of our constitution. So whosoever likes to disturb this, they are basically defying the constitution. They are defying the rule of law. They are defying the law of the land. For me, law of the land is not for exclusion, and rule of law is not for rule of any one political ideology, as per our constitution, which I consider is supreme law of India. There can be no law, not even the legislature, without any constitution. So the principle of supremacy of the constitution should be reiterated, and as it has been already been said in the Supreme Court case of Minerva Wills versus the Union of India, it was held that the supremacy of constitution is undisputed and cannot be challenged in any court of law. People of the country, organs of government, legislature, executive, and judiciary are all bound by the constitution, which is paramount law of the land. So when you mention the three different places like Ajmer Dargah, like in Jaunpur, that Atala Mosque, and there's another in Badaयूं, when the lower courts are taking up these issues. So, with the when we go and follow the principles of rule of law, so there's already a Places of Worship Act and of 1991, and which I have earlier also said that it is still very much valid. And now, since December 12th has been put in the Supreme Court, there is a lot of intervention petitions challenging the Places of Worship Act, which has already been filed by some political leaders. and there are interventions into those petitions. So we hope that on 12th December, and after that, when this the hearing will be there in a three-judge bench constituted, headed by the present Chief Justice, these things would be sorted out. But we have to see that uh, it's already in the Ayodhya judgment of 9th November 2019, where it has been very specifically been mentioned how the Places of Worship Act is part of the basic structure of the Constitution. As I had said, that when we talk of liberty, equality, and fraternity, it is also part of the basic structure of the Constitution. So we have to see how our law of the land and rule of law interpret all this and comes out a framework where these kind of deterrents, which are like lower courts taking up certain issues which they are not supposed to be doing. I think it's not. I should not be saying specifically right now when these things are already there in the court of law. But obviously, the law very clearly specifies that when you mention a court order 7, rule 11, when these have been mentioned in different court of law where these survey petitions have been moved, so the court should seat into those order 7, rule 11 application and interpret the law correctly, and these things will not come up. But I am very hopeful that after 12th December, when the Supreme Court takes up this issue, and in the coming days, there will be much more clarity on this, and hopefully these things will not likely to happen again if they come out some with clear instructions.
Since while we can debate about the role of local courts, uh, there is also the question of implementation of the Places of Worship Act. Uh, is it not the responsibility of the state government or the central government to implement Places of Worship Act when such cases are being filed, or remind the court that there is Places of Worship Act?
Uh, so, Verma, while we are speaking, I think today only the Honorable Supreme Court has mentioned that it will be hearing a three-judge bench has been constituted, uh, headed by the Honorable Chief Justice of India. And from 12th, there will be a hearing on all those petitions which have challenged the Places of Worship Act, and the interventions which have come up into those petitions. So hopefully, once the Supreme Court takes up this issue, there will be much more clarity for the state governments and the central government to put on the directives that there's no new, nothing comes up. Either way, whichever way the Supreme Court decides on the sanctity of the Places of Worship Act, these things will settle down, hopefully.
So, according to you, what steps should be taken by organizations like All India Muslim Personal Law Board or Jamaat Ulema Hind, which get support of a lot of community members? How do they move ahead these issues?
When you mention these two organizations, I should be very specific that there is 200 million Muslim population in India, and they cannot only be represented by like an umbrella one or two organizations. There are different kind of aspirations. There's so much plurality in terms of Muslim as a community. When we talk of Muslims, we we take a very, I would say, uh, make a big mistake by when we count them as one big community. It is not as such. Just like the plurality of our country, right from the Kashmir to Kanyakumari, or from Kohima to Kutch, uh, the Muslim community is as vibrant and as I would say distinctive. A Malayali Muslim will be have more I would say connect with the local Malayali Hindu than anywhere with in North India, and a person like sitting in India in Lucknow. So these organizations, I personally don't subscribe that they represent the entire Muslim community, and Muslim community, as far as any other community, has local leaderships, like community leaderships also, and through the representation of the political leader. And by and large, different political parties have representation within the community. So they should come up and they should make a continuous dialogue with the Muslim community, that they are very much, and assure them if they have any, they require any reassurances in these kind of circumstances, that they are very much inherent part of this country, and the constitution gives them equal opportunity as a citizen, and they have to uh, work for the country as well as, and they have to ask their due rights within the framework of the constitution. And for a Muslim, either if he is involved in some economic activity, or involved in the religious practices, or all those issues which is related to his personal practices, like which is mentioned in the specifically in the Mohammedan civil laws, which again there is a discourse that a uniform civil code will come up. So they have full right to preserve all those as per our present constitution which provide. So this these reassurances should come from the local, I would say, leadership which has come through the churning process, rather than from the apex bodies like which you have mentioned. This is, I believe, will be a more pragmatic way to outreach the community and to reassure in these times.
So, political leadership or religious leadership?
Both. I mentioned that we have a community leadership also, which is like socio clergy and kind of leadership. Like we have a lot of respect within the Muslim community for the ulemas, like which we call normally associate with Maulvis, those who, but they have localized presence and they influence a lot with the, and they have a continuous dialogue through, like at the time of the Juma khutbah and in those congregations. So they can also reassure, and they should be aware of our constitutional rights and political leadership also, like right across the country. Every political party, I would say, even the BJP, they have minority cells, and all the other political parties also have minority cells and representation in the houses, in the respective state legislatures, and the parliament also. And there might be some ex MLAs, ex MPs also, those who have been, those who have represented those constituencies. So they should be more involved in like making a dialogue with the community, that you should always be there and take up your causes, and which I have already mentioned, like those issues which the guarantees have been provided within the framework of the constitution, like their right for occupation, their right for education, and whatever rights have been provided to them. Like there is a specific mention within the fundamental rights about how the minority institutions can be run. Like recently, we have seen in the Supreme Court judgment regarding the Aligarh Muslim University case of its minority character. All those issues, they should be sensitized and asked for, and they should be like organized, that they have to strive within the framework of the constitution, and that constitution is still there, and they should not lose uh, any hope. And there is a working setup of a judiciary. There might be some irritants, but ultimately, whatever they have to achieve within this framework. And there is still, I would say, a working framework where these things still deliver, and the community is still hopeful. And as you have seen in this judgment of the Ayodhya case, where entire leadership of the Muslim had said that whatever be the judgment of the Supreme Court, it will be accepted by the entire community, and it happened. Nothing untoward had happened after that judgment came, and And still, I think and I believe the community still relies in all those institutions which have been provided by the constitution.
So the Shahi Imam of Jama Masjid, Sayyid Ahmad Bukhari, has appealed to the Prime Minister to intervene and has called the situation worse than 1947. He has also asked the Prime Minister to win the hearts of Muslims. How do you look at this development? Isn't it a sign of desperation?
No, I wouldn't say it's a sign of desperation. Shahi Imam obviously is a Imam of a big masjid in Delhi where he addresses to a congregation every week running into thousands. So he must have assessed certain queries and certain issues which have come up within the minds of the Muslim, those who interact with him in those congregations. So on the basis of that feedback and whatever his understanding of uh, issues is of the current issues which have come up, he might have thought of and who better person in a democracy than the prime minister, who is the head of the government, and to specifically ask that since he's the prime minister of the entire country, and that includes that 200 million Muslims also. So I just don't make it something like very important, like there's a very alarming thing which he have made of. But obviously, when someone of like a Shahi Imam has asked for, so obviously I expect it's a positive gesture within the community, and still that community, as I've said, they still want to work within the framework of the constitution, and there's a huge, I would say, confidence still in the community that all the institutions are there, and somehow there might be certain uh, deterrents come up uh, in the functioning, but overall these institutions will only deliver, and prime minister office is one such institution, and they've been asked that he should come up and reassure the community and address and make a dialogue with the Muslim. It's a welcome demand.
So my last question is, the RSS chief, Mr. Mohan Bhagwat, has often talked about that people should not look for a temple beneath every mosque. Yet, uh, there are these cases that are coming up. Uh, why do you think this is continuing? Are these organized or individuals who are acting on their own?
As I said, when you mentioned about the All India Muslim Personal Law Board and Jamatul Ulama and their role in guiding the Muslims, again, I would say that RSS is not alone the only representative body. And obviously, it's a welcome thing to come out from such a senior person and leader like Mohan Bhagwat ji, and asking that within the community that they shouldn't go and look for Shivling in every mosque. So if he had made that statement, it's a good gesture on his part. But obviously, there are always some elements which are not, I would say, they do not take up the directives of the leadership, which you always think that they should take. Like, for example, for Muslims, All India Muslim Personal Law Board or maybe Jamatul Ulama is not the only apex body. Maybe for Hindus, there may be several elements within the society, those who may not consider that RSS and Mohan Bhagwat ji, whatever he is saying is like is binding on them. So this is how I take this.
Thank you for talking to the Federal, Mr. Athar Hussain. It is always a pleasure.